The rain hammered against the windows of our Seattle home, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. I'm Alaric, and at 46 I thought I had it all: a beautiful wife, a comfortable life as an IT specialist, and a future that stretched out before me like a well-paved road. That was before I found the photos. It started subtly, with small changes in Bryn's behavior. She's 42 and works as marketing lead at a tech company. Late nights at the office became more frequent. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and the warmth that had once defined our marriage seemed to slowly dissipate. I chalked it up to stress, to the pressures of her demanding job. I tried to be understanding, to offer support. I made her favorite dinners, drew her warm baths, and listened patiently as she recounted the day's challenges. But the distance persisted, a growing chasm between us that I couldn't seem to bridge. She became less affectionate, less interested in spending time together. Our conversations dwindled to superficial exchanges about work and household chores. The silence in our bedroom grew deafening. Then came the girls' trip. Bryn announced she was going to Palm Springs with her friends from college, a weekend getaway to relax and reconnect. I encouraged her to go, thinking it would be good for her, a chance to recharge and return refreshed. I even helped her pack, making sure she had everything she needed. "Have fun," I told her as I dropped her off at the airport. "I'll miss you. I'll miss you too," she said, but her eyes didn't quite meet mine. She sent me a few texts over the weekend, snippets of their activities: lounging by the pool, shopping, going out to dinner. Everything seemed normal, innocuous. But something felt off, a nagging unease that I couldn't shake. On Sunday evening, I went to pick her up from the airport. She looked tired but happy, her skin glowing with a tan. "How was it?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Amazing," she gushed. "We had so much fun. I really needed that." As we drove home, she regaled me with stories of their adventures, but her words felt rehearsed, lacking the spark of genuine enthusiasm. I tried to ignore the knot in my stomach, the growing suspicion that something wasn't right. The following Tuesday, I was working from home when I needed to access Bryn's laptop. She had left it on the kitchen counter, and I knew her password. I needed to check the dimensions for a new desk I was planning to buy her as a surprise. I opened the laptop and found the browser still open, displaying her email inbox. A new email had just arrived. The subject line simply read, "Palm Springs." Curiosity, or perhaps a deeper, more primal instinct, compelled me to click on it. The email was from an unknown sender, and it contained a series of photos. My breath caught in my throat as I scrolled through them, each image a dagger twisting in my heart. It wasn't a girl's trip. Bryn hadn't gone to Palm Springs with her college friends. She had gone with another man. The photos were explicit, intimate, and undeniably damning. Bryn, laughing and smiling, wrapped in the arms of a stranger. Bryn, kissing him passionately by the pool. Bryn, holding his hand as they strolled along the beach. I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands trembling uncontrollably. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the solid ground beneath my feet dissolving into quicksand. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I stumbled to the bathroom, barely making it to the toilet before I vomited. The photos were a brutal, undeniable confirmation of my worst fears. Bryn had been lying to me, deceiving me, betraying me in the most profound way imaginable. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had been unfaithful. I sat on the bathroom floor, staring blankly at the wall, the photos seared into my mind. The pain was excruciating, a deep, visceral ache that threatened to consume me. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of betrayal. After what seemed like an eternity, I managed to pull myself together. I wiped my face, rinsed my mouth, and tried to compose myself. I needed to confront Bryn, to demand an explanation. But I also needed time to process what I had discovered, to gather my thoughts and prepare myself for the inevitable confrontation. I spent the next few hours in a daze, wandering aimlessly around the house. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't think straight. The photos replayed in my mind, each image a fresh wound. When Bryn finally came home from work, I was waiting for her in the living room, her laptop sitting open on the coffee table. She walked in, her usual bright smile on her face, but it faltered when she saw me. Alaric, what's wrong? She asked, her voice laced with concern. I didn't say a word. I simply gestured to the laptop. She followed my gaze, her eyes widening in horror as she recognized the photos. Her face paled, her smile vanished, and she stumbled backward as if she had been struck. Alaric, I can explain, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Explain, I said, my voice cold and hard. Explain how you could lie to me. Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could sleep with another man. Tears welled up in her eyes and she began to sob. It just happened, she cried. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen, a mistake. I repeated, my voice rising. A mistake that involved a weekend getaway and a series of intimate photos. Is that what you call a mistake? She sank to her knees, clutching my legs, begging for forgiveness. Please, Alaric, I am so sorry. I love you. Please don't leave me. I looked down at her, her face streaked with tears, her body trembling with sobs. I wanted to believe her, to forgive her, to erase the photos from my mind. But the images were too vivid, the betrayal too deep. I couldn't do it. I can't, I said, my voice breaking. I can't forgive you. I can't forget what you've done. I gently disengaged her grasp and stood up. I want you to leave, I said, my voice trembling. I want you to pack your things and get out of my house. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with despair. Alaric, please don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I said, my voice flat. You broke it, you destroyed it, and I can't put it back together. She didn't argue. She simply nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She stood up, wiped her eyes, and walked slowly toward the bedroom. I watched her go, my heart aching with a pain I had never known before. The woman I loved was leaving me, and I knew that our life together was over. As she packed her bags, I sat in the living room, staring out the window at the rain-soaked city. The sky was gray, the air heavy, and the world seemed to reflect my own despair. When she was finished, she came back to the living room, her suitcase in hand. She looked at me one last time, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and regret. Goodbye, Alaric, she said, her voice barely audible. Goodbye, Bryn, I replied, my voice equally soft. She turned and walked out the door, disappearing into the rain. I watched her go, my heart breaking into a million pieces. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't focus on anything. I called in sick to work, spending my days wandering aimlessly around the house, haunted by memories of Bryn. I reached out to a few close friends, confiding in them about what had happened. They were supportive and understanding, offering words of comfort and encouragement. But their words couldn't fill the void in my heart, the emptiness that Bryn had left behind. I consulted with a lawyer and initiated divorce proceedings. The legal process was complicated and stressful, but I was determined to get through it. I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life with Bryn, not after what she had done. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly began to heal. I started exercising, eating healthy, and spending time with friends and family. I even started dating again, cautiously dipping my toes back into the world of romance. But the scars of Bryn's betrayal remained, a constant reminder of the pain I had endured. I knew that I would never fully trust another woman again, that a part of me would always be guarded, wary of being hurt again. One evening, about 6 months after Bryn left, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, I said, my voice tentative. Alaric, it's Emery, the voice on the other end said. Emery was one of Bryn's college friends, the one who had supposedly gone on the girls' trip to Palm Springs. Emery, I said, surprised. What do you want? I need to talk to you, she said, her voice urgent. It's about Bryn. I hesitated for a moment, then agreed to meet her for coffee the following day. I was curious to hear what she had to say, but I was also apprehensive. I didn't want to rehash the past, to relive the pain of Bryn's betrayal. The next day I met Emery at a small cafe near my office. She looked nervous and uncomfortable, her eyes darting around the room. Thank you for meeting me, she said, her voice trembling. What is it, Emery? I asked, my voice impatient. What do you want to tell me? She took a deep breath and began to speak. The trip to Palm Springs, she said, it wasn't what you think. I know it wasn't a girl's trip, I said, my voice sarcastic. I saw the photos, yes, but there's more to the story, she said. Bryn didn't just go to Palm Springs with another man. She went because she was being blackmailed. I stared at her in disbelief. Blackmailed, I repeated. What are you talking about? Emery explained that the man Bryn had gone to Palm Springs with was a former colleague, a man named Quillen. They had had a brief affair several years ago before I met Bryn. Quillen had recently resurfaced, threatening to expose the affair to me unless Bryn complied with his demands. He wanted money, Emery said. A lot of money. And he threatened to ruin her reputation if she didn't pay him. Bryn, desperate to protect me and her career, had reluctantly agreed to Quillen's demands. He had arranged the trip to Palm Springs, staging the photos to ensure that Bryn couldn't back out. She didn't want to hurt you, Alaric, Emery said. She was trying to protect you. She thought it was the only way. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process what Emery had told me. Could it be true? Was Bryn's betrayal not as simple as I had thought? Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice suspicious. Because I feel guilty, Emery said. I knew what was happening and I didn't do anything to stop it. I let Bryn suffer in silence, and I can't live with that anymore. I didn't know what to believe. Part of me wanted to dismiss Emery's story as a lie, a desperate attempt to excuse Bryn's behavior, but another part of me wondered if there might be some truth to it. I decided to confront Bryn to give her a chance to explain herself. I called her and asked her to meet me at a park near our old house. She was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. The next day I waited for her at the park, my heart pounding in my chest. When she arrived, she looked pale and drawn, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and anxiety. Alaric, she said, her voice barely a whisper. What do you want? I want the truth, Bryn, I said, my voice firm. I want to know what really happened in Palm Springs. She hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. She recounted the story of her affair with Quillen, his threats, and her desperate attempt to protect me. Her story matched Emery's, detail for detail. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face, her body shaking with sobs. I listened in silence, my heart aching with a mixture of anger, sadness, and confusion. When she was finished, I didn't know what to say. I needed time to process everything, to sort through my emotions. I don't know what to think, Bryn, I said, my voice trembling. I need time, she nodded understandingly. I know, she said. Take all the time you need. I spent the next few days in deep contemplation, wrestling with my feelings. I wanted to believe Bryn, to forgive her for what she had done. But the pain of her betrayal was still raw, the scars still fresh. I spoke with my therapist, seeking guidance and support. She helped me to understand Bryn's motivations, to see her actions in a new light. She also helped me to recognize my own anger and pain, and to begin the process of healing. After much soul-searching, I came to a decision. I couldn't forgive Bryn completely, but I could understand her. I could acknowledge the circumstances that had led to her betrayal, and I could move forward with a sense of compassion and understanding. I called Bryn and asked her to meet me again. When she arrived, I took her hand and looked her in the eyes. I believe you, Bryn, I said, my voice sincere. I believe that you were trying to protect me, and I understand why you did what you did. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she squeezed my hand tightly. Thank you, Alaric, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Thank you for believing me. I can't forget what happened, Bryn, I said, and I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again, but I am willing to try. I am willing to give us another chance. She threw her arms around me, hugging me tightly. I love you, Alaric, she whispered. I love you so much. We decided to start over, to rebuild our relationship from the ground up. We went to couples counseling, working through our issues and learning to communicate more effectively. We spent more time together, rediscovering the joys of companionship and intimacy. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks and challenges along the way, but we persevered, committed to making our relationship work. Over time, our trust began to heal, our love grew stronger, and our bond became deeper than ever before. We learned from our mistakes, and we emerged from the ashes of betrayal stronger and more resilient. I never fully forgot the pain of Bryn's betrayal, but I learned to forgive her. And in doing so, I found a new level of peace and understanding. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was honest. And it was built on a foundation of love, trust, and forgiveness. Years later, Bryn and I are still together. We've weathered many storms, but our love has always endured. We've learned that relationships are not about perfection, but about commitment, communication, and a willingness to forgive. And as I look back on the dark days of Bryn's betrayal, I realized that it was a turning point in our lives, a crucible that forged us into a stronger, more resilient couple. I hope this story resonates with you and reminds you that even in the face of profound betrayal, forgiveness and healing are possible. Remember, it's not about forgetting the past, but about learning from it and moving forward with love and compassion. Keep your heart open and never give up on the possibility of redemption.